It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
So everybody remembers January 6th and Josh Hawley doing the big fist thing and then running. I remember the running more than the fist pump. But I got a lot of my Republican friends who go, Josh Hawley's the future of the Republican Party. He's a man of the people. And look, understand, Republicans are making a true attempt at being the party of the working class. The pivot is happening right before us. And this train derailment is a big part of what they're trying to do. And Hawley's figuring out how to triangulate his way into being that working class populist while still having all of the bad ideas that got us into the mess we're in right now. Which is why can't let him do it. Got to hold him accountable. And at some point, I'm hoping someone in that state in Missouri shows him the door. And I'm hoping my next guest could be that guy. That's why I've asked Lance Kunce to come talk with us. He's a 13-year Marine veteran, also the Democrat running against Josh Hawley. Lucas, thanks for taking time for us.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. It's good to be here, man.
I go back to January 6th, and I'm looking at Hawley, and I'm looking at him doing the fist pump, and I'm looking at him doing all these things, and it's not who he is.
No, I mean, the guy's a fraud, right? You're right. They're trying to do this pivot to working class, and he thinks that, getting out there pumping his fist is going to get him some power. So he's out there doing it. And then the second that things get real, he's skittering out the back door as fast as he can, right? The guy's only about power for himself. He'll do whatever it takes. Well, he won't do whatever it takes. He'll say whatever it takes to try to get that power, but it doesn't actually change or do anything, right? The guy is a country club Republican through and through. I mean, he's a guy who, when the Iraq War started, some of us experienced the Iraq War differently than others. I was there as a United States Marine. Josh Hawley is famous for popping popcorn and watching on TV and being so excited that this country was going to war and his peers were getting killed over there. It's absolutely bananas. Like, the guy doesn't understand the working class. He doesn't understand anything about us. And people in Missouri, they realize that, and they don't like him. He's not popular here. His approval rating hovers around 40%. By contrast, John Tester in Montana is at like 60%, right? And so we got a real opportunity here where we can take down one of the frauds in their home state straight away and try to end this thing.
Now, Missouri, in my view, has always been a very strong working class state. I mean, centrist to be honest, but not crazy. I look at someone like Hawley who does play this kind of faux populist, but sides regularly with the bad ideas. And again, I keep coming back to the moment that we're in. All of the deregulation, the tax code that benefits the very wealthy and corporations, all of the systems that are in place are because of the ideology of people like Josh Hawley.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you talk about Missouri being working class, let me tell you something that we're really proud of here, and that's that we're the only state in the entire union to overturn right-to-work legislation by ballot initiative. People look at Missouri like, oh, that's a red state. I'm sorry, but Virginia is a right-to-work state, right? Missouri is not, because the people of this state on a ballot initiative overturned that legislation, and we did it 68% to 32%. We also increased the minimum wage $5 over the federal level. And, people look down on the Midwest, but I'm telling you right now, $12 here in Missouri is more than $15 is in New York City or San Francisco, right? People here, working class people, we take care of each other. And I know that personally. I grew up, my mom got married at 19. My dad wasn't much older. They had 4 kids before you knew it. My parents were broke. We lived in a working class neighborhood. And when my little sister was born and had to have a heart surgery, we went bankrupt. And the reason we made it wasn't because these country club Republicans on the other side of town were taking care of us. It's not because of the Josh Hawleys of the world who were just trying to take more and more for themselves. It's because the people in our neighborhood who had no more money than we did passed the plate for us down at church. They brought more tuna casserole by the house than we could ever eat, right? And took care of each other. That's why I joined the Marine Corps, because one of the guys who took care of us was a United States Marine in Vietnam. And that's where we come from. Josh Hawley's a fraud. He went to the fanciest schools. He's the son of a banker. He doesn't know anything about everyday people. You see that in his policies. You see that in the way that he embarrasses himself over and over again. I mean, he actually, he did this bet with another faux populist, J.D. Vance, over the AFC Championship game, which was Chiefs versus Bengals. And he Googled Kansas City barbecue and accidentally bet J.D. Vance Kansas barbecue rather than Missouri barbecue because the dude is so out of touch. And like you want to talk about a guy who doesn't care? Like, he doesn't even care enough to do a proper Google search to make sure that he does the right bet, right? And so that's what we're exposing, just the fraudulence and the cowardice, and this is important. It's the front lines in this fight where they are trying to claim they're the party of working people. He's against work. He was against overturning right to wage. He's pro right to work. He's a pro right to work guy. He's an anti-minimum wage guy. He doesn't want any of the things we want.
It's funny you bring that up because, Vance had his own problems in Ohio because he didn't know you put the IO after OH. Oops. And again, if you're gonna be of the people, you got to know what the people are talking about. And look, I know Kansas City barbecue. You don't screw around with that. And I live in Pennsylvania, and I know that.
Again, like, the guy doesn't understand. And the worst part is, like, he doesn't understand us, but he also doesn't even have the courage to learn, right? Like, I don't care if you're a rich kid and you want to be a politician. I don't care if you want to represent people, but you got to have the courage to learn how everyday Missourians live. And that's paycheck to paycheck and one disaster from bankruptcy. And you've got to be willing to help us out. I know what both of those things are like. And that's why I understand what we got going on, why I can reach people. And I'm telling you, we're going to expose this guy as a fraud and a coward every day.
No, you're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're with Lucas Kunce. He's a 13-year Marine veteran, also the Democrat running against Josh Hawley. His website, lucaskunce.com, the website. We'll get links out on social media how you can take a look at that and maybe participate, maybe throw in a couple of bucks. Now, one of the things you said a moment ago that caught my attention is this idea of community, people bringing, the casseroles over and being part of a bigger community. And I think we have to figure out how to pull that back together. I've said for a very long time, I think the labor movement is a place where we bring that back together, give people the opportunity to make better wages, hours, and conditions in the jobs that they do. But it's also about talking to each other and finding that common ground of community. I just don't see how someone like Hawley is going to be that person. He talks about unity, talks the game, but again, looking at January 6th, the things, the rhetoric, the statements, they don't line up.
No, man, he's a fake populist, right? Like real populism in the plains, populism of Harry Truman, something that we have here for a long time. It's not about dividing people and conquering for your own power, which is what he's doing. It's about bringing people together and going against a system that doesn't work for us. I mean, you were just talking about East Palestine, right? Like, Josh Hawley took a junk ton of money from Norfolk Southern, and when he was Attorney General here, and didn't do anything on a lot of the water laws and the EPA stuff. He was part of the crew that tried to overturn those, but you're seeing being a problem there, right? Like, guy is a country club Republican through and through who sees a path to power and is trying to take it. And so for me, like, I don't think you can stand for the community when you sell yourself off to massive corporations and strip our communities for parts. I mean, that's what I see here in Missouri, right? I went to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan twice. I deployed for my country. And the hardest thing for me was coming back home and seeing the community, this place that took care of my family when I was a kid, worse off. Like, the first house I ever lived in, it's an empty lot right now, man. It's been torn down. The only new housing in that neighborhood is Habitat houses. The one I joined the Marine Corps out of, like, half the windows aren't there. The corner store is gone. And it just kills me to see these folks who claim to be for working people let Wall Street and massive corporations just strip our communities for parts. They let these hedge funds come in and buy housing. They let them just absolutely destroy us. They don't exercise antitrust. I mean, you want to be a real populist, maybe you should use antitrust. I mean, Josh Hawley says he's against the big tech companies. You know what his anti-big tech company bill was recently? That every single American who signs up on a tech platform has to give the tech platforms their driver's license, birth certificate, social security card and stuff. Like, he went after us and our privacy in order to try to put an age limit down instead of actually attacking these companies. And so, for me, again, it's faux populism through and through. And we're on the front lines of that. We got to fight it every single day here.
Wow. Let me ask you this, Lucas, because you talked about the houses you grew up in. And we traveled through Kansas, and we traveled through Iowa, and we traveled through Wisconsin, and we traveled throughout the Midwest, and we saw communities that were broken. We saw communities where the town center is abandoned and homes were abandoned because the factories left. How did it happen in the neighborhoods that you grew up in? What happened to those places? And then, policy-wise, is there anything we can do to revive that? And what direction, what policies do you fight for? What would you bring back to help revive those communities and help those thrive again?
Absolutely. And so what happened was Wall Street teamed up with our politicians to stop enforcing our antitrust laws because it was going to make them more money to do mergers and acquisitions and can consolidate our infrastructure, our economy, and our production, much of which, once the companies were consolidated, was then shipped overseas, right? But when I talk about consolidation, like St. Louis used to be the headquarters of so many companies. They've now been sold overseas, right? Monsanto was sold to Bayer. So now the profits and things from Monsanto are going overseas to a German corporation. Anheuser-Busch, another flagship company here, was sold to InBev, a Brazilian conglomerate with Belgium. Smithfield, our biggest pork producer, is now owned by China, WH Group. It was sold overseas after we let Big Ag consolidate and destroy all the small farmers. So Missouri used to have the most small pork producers of any state in the entire country. We stopped enforcing our antitrust laws, so that's like Sherman antitrust. But for ag, it's also packers and stockyards, stuff like that. We didn't enforce it at all. We let these big corporations take over, and then their shareholders, in order to squeeze a little more value and make profit off of killing off these small farms, and sold themselves overseas. And another big one's JBS, which is a Brazilian conglomerate. And so we just let these big companies consolidate past the point that they should be, so they have more power over politicians. And just the snowball effect continues, and we lost our industry, we lost our agricultural base, we lost the profit from our land and our production. It's still happening. It's just getting sucked out of the state rather than staying here. And so what we need to do is we need to rewrite antitrust laws. We need to get these corporate hack judges, who, by the way, Josh Hawley votes for every single one of these corporate hack judges. The dude, when he left law school, he went to a corporate white shoe law firm where these people are coming from, right? Like the most elite corporate law firm in the country. And so he votes for all his pals, who then support these companies, despite what the law says, over workers, over small businesses, and things like that.
See, I think Lucas, I think this is a message that's important for working class people, because time and time again, this was the story. Whether I was in Ottumwa, Iowa, or Eau Claire, Wisconsin, or Appleton, or you name the place, this was the story. The story was the local factory, the local identity of that town was sucked away, stripped away, because some hedge fund, Bain Capital, or whoever consolidated or sold off or whatever, took the identity of that town away and the jobs with it, and left nothing in its place. And communities suffered and struggled, and there was no government. There was no one to step in and fill that void. So to me, I've been asking the question for a decade now: who's going to be this generation's Harry Truman? Who's going to be this generation's Teddy Roosevelt, the trust buster? Right. So I guess the question is are you that guy? Are you going to be the next Teddy Roosevelt?
So I was so sick of it at the Pentagon. My last tour of duty, I was doing arms control negotiations with Russia, and I oversaw a couple of treaties, and I saw how these defense contractors had consolidated the industry, were stealing all this money from taxpayers, giving us bad products. And so I decided to leave. And, at the same time, I was seeing my old neighborhoods get destroyed, and join a nonprofit, the American Economic Liberties Project, whose sole goal was to do that, right? We went after big tech. We went after big defense contractors. We went after big ag and several other industries. Big pharma is one of them. Some of the insulin, all the stuff around insulin prices that you're seeing coming out. We sort of initiated that with a few people. We helped run the hearings in Congress against big tech in the House Antitrust, the Judiciary Antitrust Subcommittee. and really try to expose a lot of this and bring it out into sort of the psyche of the American people. And now what we need to do, now that information's out there, and you can see how bad these people is we need to act on it. And that's what I'm doing. I mean, that's what this race is about. It's about empowering everyday people against a system that doesn't work for them and going against the frauds like Josh Hawley, who are keeping that system in place. Because again, like, let's never forget that this guy is a country club Republican, right? That's it. He is a country club Republican, faux populist, who supports all of the things that take away the slack in our communities, the ability of our communities to take care of each other. Like, if you go to my old neighborhood right now, if I were to live there right now, I live in Independence now, not Jeff City, actually Harry Truman's hometown. You can see his house down the street from it. But like, that community, they don't have the resources anymore to take care of somebody who goes bankrupt from medical bills. Like, they're that squeezed. And so when we lose that, and when the community loses the ability to take care of each other, then it just falls apart, which is what you're seeing. And so yes, that is my goal. My goal is to go after these corporations that have bought off our politicians, go after the politicians like Josh Hawley, who give lip service to things while then stabbing you in the back the rest of the time, because I do believe that Missouri is the front line in this fight for working people and for democracy, right? This is the front line where, you know, we have a state where we're willing to overturn right to work legislation 68-32. We're willing to pass this minimum wage. We're willing to claw back power at the ballot box over and over again on these initiatives, because that's what we want. We want the power to lead our own lives again. That's what everyday folks here want. And I plan to be the tip of the spear on that fight and in this thing right here and right now.
You listen to the Rick Smith Show with Lucas Kunce. He is running for Senate in Missouri against Josh Hawley. The website, lucaskunce.com. We'll get links out on social media. You can take a look at that, maybe make a contribution to the campaign. I ask every candidate the same thing. You know, what's the hill that you die on? What's that issue that is the most important thing to you that there's no compromise on?
I'm dying on money in politics. The way politics is funded right now is the root of most of our problems. I take no corporate PAC money. I take no federal lobbyist money. I take no big fossil fuel company money. I take no big pharma executive money. We got a really long list. It's probably the tightest in the entire country. But like, my whole purpose of running is power for everyday people, to show folks that you don't have to be a banker's daddy. You don't have to be an heir. You can actually win an election in this country and raise the money to do it from everyday people. And then by doing that, we can actually change the system. And so, you know, a lot of people say I was crazy when I did that. Well, you know, on the first day of the campaign, we raised more money than any candidate statewide ever has, Republican or Democrat in this state before. We did the same thing the first week because people deserve something that they can believe in. They want something they can believe in. And I am staying pure on that. I'm not going to bend on it. I'm really proud of what we put together, because I do think that we need to win a race, like a real race, a big race, that's not tainted by the wrong money at all. And just show people that's how you can do it. Everyday folks can win again. Because again, like, you know, I come from a working class neighborhood. My family's got no personal wealth. When my mom got cancer a few years ago, like, she's living with me, right? She had to move in with me, because when you work a job that's essentially an hourly job, and you get cancer and you can't work that job anymore, like, you're screwed, man. You got to go move in with family. People like Josh Hawley, they don't know that. They don't understand that. So they don't care about giving us benefits to survive a situation like that. It's no fault of our own. Like, did my mom go sign up to have lymphoma? No, that's crazy. And so, you know, I'm just bringing that perspective to this thing because I do believe that people with my background should be able to represent each other in the U.S. Senate at the highest levels in our government. And I think if we are able to do that, like, we're not going to be giving tax credits to the richest people. We're not going to be letting the Saudis buy off our country, or China, or anybody else, right? We're going to take care of each other. Everyday people aren't idiots. We know what we want. We know what's right.
I was going to cut this short here at this point, but I got to now know about the healthcare situation with your mother. One, is she okay? Did she make it through?
She did. Yeah, she lived with me for a while. She cleared through lymphoma, and she's been in remission for about 10 years, which is really nice. I'm really happy for her.
No, good on her. But, you know, the point that I want to get to is, you know, on Twitter and on social media and emails I get from people, you know, healthcare is one of these things that it's all fine, well, and good that you've got private healthcare until you need it. And you hit on the number one problem that I see, that the second you get sick and you need it, eventually it goes away, especially if you have a serious illness. This is something that I want somebody with your perspective. in the halls of power saying, this is my reality, and I didn't have money to reach into my pocket and fund all of these opportunities for my family. I want somebody who's going to know how difficult it is to deal with insurance companies, and bill debt collectors, and all of the horrible that happens to working people every day.
Absolutely. That's why I'm running. I mean, I've seen it twice. I saw it when I was a kid, and my family went bankrupt from medical bills, and we had a very, very hard life at that point, right? We really did. And again, the only reason we made it is because people took care of us. I mean, even when I was in high school, we still didn't have any money trying to recover from that. I remember this is another good example of the way that everyday people take care of each other, right? Like my high school cross country coach, I ran cross country. He saw that I kept getting injured because my parents could only afford to buy me one pair of shoes a year. And when you run that many miles, you're going to get hurt if you don't get another pair of shoes. And I'm going to tell you right now, Missouri pays its teachers 50th in the country, 50th in teachers pay. And that coach, he would secretly buy me a pair of shoes once a year, in addition to the one my parents could buy, so that I wouldn't get hurt. Like, that guy didn't have any money, but he still took care of his community and took care of a kid who he saw promise in. Like, would I have gotten into college then without that? I don't know. And, the only way I got to go to the college I went to is because I got a Pell Grant from the federal government. We need programs like that to take care of people. So it's on education. It's on healthcare. I saw it as a kid. I saw it when my mom had cancer. And the problem is, again, we got these faux populist Josh Hawleys who say they care about working people. They know nothing about our lives. They know nothing about what it's like to go through these things. And again, they don't even have the courage to learn about it. They don't care to learn about it. They just spout off their talking points and pretend like they care. And again, that's why it's the front line in the fight for our country, for democracy, for working people. And I'm proud to be leading it.
Now, this is another one of those examples where you've got people who have benefited from things, who then want to turn around and tear it apart. I look at, Paul Ryan and I share a commonality. We both had a parent who died, and we were able to collect the survivor's benefit from Social Security. The difference is I didn't think it was near enough. My grandparents struggled to be able to take care of me during the years I lived with them. Paul Ryan wanted to destroy it. This is the kind of perspective I think is important to have in the halls of power. So how can people help? I mean, again, I love what I'm hearing, and I hope you'll come back and share more down the road. How can folks help you?
I'd love to. If you can go to Lucas Kunce Mo on Twitter, that's our Twitter handle, Mo's from Missouri. Follow us there. Spread the word with your friends and family. If you know someone in Missouri, give them a call, shoot him an email, say that you just heard this guy who understands how everyday Missourians live, work, and operate, and that he'd be a great representative. Have them follow us. If you can donate, you can go to lucaskunce.com. My last name is spelled Kunce. And, send us a couple nickels. When I talk about the way that we raise money and who we're not raising it from, our average donation is like $30 or something like that. It's one of the lowest in the entire country. We're really proud of that fact because, again, like the only people that I ever want to owe, this is my promise to everyone. It's my promise to myself. The only people I ever want to owe are the folks who took care of me and my family when I was a kid. That's who I'm going to owe when I'm in the U.S. Senate, and people like them. And the only way that we can get there is if we all come together to fund it and make it happen.
No, I'm hopeful for you. I hope folks will go to lucaskunce.com. We'll get links out on social media. Follow you on the social media channels. We'll get that out as well, and hope folks will follow along. I'm looking forward to this campaign because I think you're going to do great things. Lucas, I appreciate you taking some time for us. Keep up the great work, and I hope you'll come back and talk to us again real soon.
I'd love to. Appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. No, again, this is one of those moments, and what I've been talking about for ages. Working class people throwing their hat in the ring and saying, you know what, we're going to stand up to the power of money. We're going to stand up to the wealthy elite, and we're going to fight. This is good stuff. lucaskunce.com. Quick break. Right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.
We are AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. We represent 700,000 federal and D.C. government workers who are the vital threads of the fabric of American life. We support our nation's military. We take care of our nation's veterans. We protect our nation's borders. We respond to our nation's crises and natural disasters. We provide services to our nation's seniors. The American Federation of Government Employees. We work for America.
The old factory towns in America's heartland have been taking a beating. Thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. After years of politicians talking about it, they finally passed a big new infrastructure package to rebuild roads and bridges, fix drinking water systems, and make the energy grid more secure. We're finally turning things around after 40 years of screwing over working people. But will we keep moving in the right direction? That's our choice as Americans.
I've been driving buses for 5 years, and my day-to-day routine is I wake up a little earlier than most people. I get on a bus, I go out, I pick up some students and make sure they get to school nice and safe. Here in Fairbanks, Alaska, that can be a challenge because of the winter weather and the icy roads. But I love the job. So the Teamsters are great. They provide us a lot of protections. They've always taken care of their people, made sure that our jobs were secure. We didn't have to worry about whether or not we'd have a job from day to day.
And that's amazing because before we'd be working 4, 6, 8 hours a day and only earning minimum wage was real difficult to make a living. And then the Teamsters pushed a lot so we make something we can live off of and not have to have a second job. What absolutely gives me peace of mind, the union membership allows me to focus on this job without having to worry about whether or not my family is going to be taken care of. I'm Andrew Case, and I'm proud to be Teamsters Local 959.
Before we close the program, we want to take a moment to thank our viewers and to share a little bit about why we do what we do. At the Rick Smith Show, we believe that media today is almost entirely controlled by corporate greed. So we have now 24-hour news channels. But instead of 24 hours of news, what we get is 1 hour repeated 24 times, and with tons of commercials creating obscene amounts of profits. Information once presented as a public service has now become a private commodity. So when lies make money, lies are what we get. We get a corporate-controlled rage machine feeding us anger and hate, trying to convince us that our problems are right, left, or red, blue, when they are and always have been up, down, the wealthiest 1% versus the rest of us. Our goal is to be an alternative to that machine, not as a news show with a fancy journalist out front, but as a talk show run by a union truck driver and a team of working-class heroes just like you. Everything we do, both what we get right and what we get wrong, is dedicated to advancing the interests of America's working families. No corporate ad buys, no think tanks, no focus groups, no talking points. We are media by working people, for working people. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.